Welcome to Chapter Sass, the podcast where we deep dive into the books that make you blush, gasp, and maybe even think a little. I'm your host, Season, and with every book, I'll be joined with a new co-host with their own hot take. From spicy romances to messy love triangles and all the glorious chaos in between, we're here with a fresh perspective to unpack the stories we love, question what we think we know, and explore how the book speaks to us. Things might even get a little sassy. This episode is rated mature and will contain spoilers. Let's get into the first chapter. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We will be covering the Bonds of Hercules. This is the Villain of Lore story, book 2, and we're going to start off from 42 to the end of the book, so chapter 53. Hello, Danielle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Eyes are still a little funky, so I still have to wear my glasses, so I have my notes on super, I think it's like 52, whatever, just so I could like see it. So, maybe not. I don't know what
You
it's at,
can't
'cause I made
even
it small.
see what size the font is.
Oh, 25. I lied. 25. But it's because when I'm recording, I have the new windows, so they're just minimized. So that's why. But yeah. All right. So what are you drinking today?
Okay. Well, since it was in my hand, the coffee with boatloads of oat milk, always the water jug. And then I got myself a little fizzy water.
Oh, I like that. And we're ending the book off. We're ending it off great. There we go.
Kind of sad it's the end.
Oh, me too. Don't worry, I'll bring you back again. Hopefully we'll have a book 3, but I'm not sure. Well, I also have
There's a book
water.
3.
I also have water. Then, I was gonna make like a cocktail, but we record early and it's a Tuesday, so I have coffee with some sweet foam. It's just black coffee with sweet foam. The sweet foam has made a change to this color, but I figured we're gonna enter the, labors of Hercules, which is really dark, but then like we get a lot of sweetness kind of at the end with the marriage couple. So felt like it was appropriate. So cheers.
Cheers. I'm like, it was just too early to put gin in this fizzy water.
Yeah, it's too. I was like, it's just way too early to. But zero like zero judgment. Like if you wanted to throw something in there, zero judgment. That just doesn't work for me. But zero judgment to anyone who wanted to throw some like.
Yeah. I considered it. You all don't know it's only 10:45 in the morning.
That is
Unless
true.
I
Once
tell
it
you.
airs.
We could have been
Alrighty
like,
then. So let's get into the
"Whoa."
next chapter. We ended with it was Augustus's labors, and he showed his hand because he didn't want Alexis to feel any of the pain because he realizes that she can feel the pain. So he just showed his hand and he showed that he's a very powerful Thonic. So now it's chapter 42, the 12 labors of Hercules, SGC day 13, and it's Alexis chapter. And guys, this is what this whole book is for. This is what we were waiting for. We were waiting for Alexis here. So we've now entered 12 labors of Hercules. She wakes up and Karin and Augustus are nowhere to be found. Neither are Poco and the Hellhounds. Alexis says that she has like phantom sore pains, but she's not really sure what like they're from. I immediately like would be like, oh, if I'm feeling sore for no reason and I can't find my husband's, something has to be going on. Like that would immediately go through my brain. But to Alexis' defense, the guards are at her door and they're pretty much threatening that she's gonna come on like the next 3 minutes. They're gonna like forcibly remove her so that she could do her labor. So she has to like get dressed. So she grabs, most important thing, she grabs her calculator that can record. And then she grabs Nyx. Apparently Nyx was just sleeping and she had to like look for her because she was invisible. Throw her on. Fluffy Jr. comes along, but he looks absolutely terrible and does not look like he needs to be in this fight. He's also grown to the point that he's now up to Alexis's chest. So he's just been going through all these growth spurts. And remember, Alexis is tall. Like she's supposed to be tall because like I think Persephone, whatever. She's supposed to be like on the taller side. So we all didn't guess by now that he's a horse. Like he's literally a pony, I think, at this point. No one's
But like, how
guessing
did
it,
we
but
all
yes.
figure it out and none of them did? Like, you all actually have eyes on this motherfucker, right? We're just being given descriptions. You all can see Fluffy Jr., and you're like, "Oh, I don't know, he's gonna die," and the rest of us are like, "Nah, yo, that's a Pegasus."
So Alexis is a little bit concerned because she knows her husbands would not leave her during her 12 labors, like during her day. So she's just like worried about them. And I will say that I think that it's good that she bonded with her husband in these last like 10 to 15 chapters, because in the beginning of the book, she wouldn't have thought this, right? She would have thought that they just abandoned her. So I do think it shows like growth in character development. So the guards like take Alexis like this like weapon room. She's told to pick a weapon. She doesn't know what to do because she just started training with the weapons. Remember, she didn't grow up in Sparta. She asks Nyx like which one should she take, and Nyx says grab the spear, it's the easiest. And I'm just thinking, look, not that I've ever had a spear. I have played with like a toy sword. I just think a toy sword, like a sword would be better. Like a spear, she has no muscles. And I feel like you need to just like aim this a little bit better, versus a sword at the end of the day could almost be like a baseball bat. Like as long as you have the brute force in front of you, you can slash it. Like it is sharp. I think she should have walked out there with a sword and not a spear. But I don't know.
Swords are heavy.
She would have been fine. A spear, you have to throw that. Like she can't do that.
I feel like with a spear, though, I can keep you at a distance, right? Like, maybe a spear is longer and I can just, like, jabby at you, whereas with a sword, I gotta get close enough to you to, like, even if that sword is 3 feet long, I feel like I still gotta get closer to you to sword stuff. I feel
Okay, I
like
guess
with
true,
spear, I can
true.
just be like, "Ugh," from the corner.
The gates open and it's a dark, stormy day. So the worst possible scenario for her. Zeus can use his powers. The crowd is yelling Angelus Romaine, which is like Angel of Rome. They're just all excited for like this hype. They've seen her with the Titans, so the stands are just the people in the stands are just like super excited to see this fight. You know, Zeus does his thing. He announces the 12 labors, and then the gates go up, and she sees figures emerging on the other side. And it should be 4 labors in this round because she has to do 3, but instead it's 8. So Alexis has to fight 8 oversized Neiman lions. And of course, the Thonic section is like up and protesting. They're all pointing at Zeus, like the Federation, whoever's in charge right now. But at this point, I'm like, okay, even Hades, like, let's get like, hey, Hades, what did you think was gonna happen? Like your daughter world I can't even say the word, world 12, whatever, even though Hades cheated. Hades has literally been cheating up until now. What did you think was gonna happen when your daughter had to fight? That he was gonna all of a sudden play fair?
Yeah, and it goes back to the idea that, like, Hades is somehow into, like, all of this, right? Like, he's in on it with Zeus. So, again, I'm gonna turn him into a vampire. Oh, no! Like, come on, dude. Right? Every step along the way, the Chthonic leaders are, like, up in arms. But
Yeah.
it's happened so frequently throughout all of these battles that it makes me think somebody was, like, in on this, right?
Mhm.
Because the way that the Chthonic leaders are reacting, like, and they've threatened war multiple times, how is this not the thing that made the war happen? You know?
Exactly. Nope, agreed. Agreed. How
Hades
is
is
this?
in
I
on
agree.
this.
I agree. I don't know how much Hades is in on this, but I do think he had to agree to something, and somehow this falls within. I do think at the end of the day, Hades is like a good person, unlike Zeus, but I agree. He has some secrets that we don't know what they are.
I just want him to be in on it so I can keep doing my, like, pretend Hades shock. Oh, no. Oh,
I love
no.
it. I love it. This chapter does a great job in describing Alexis fighting the 8 lions, and I encourage you guys to read it. But I'm just going to cover the important stuff because it's like a long chapter. So Fluffy Jr. does a great job helping. Meanwhile, his hump keeps moving a lot. Nyx also does a great job at like trying to help Alexis. They, she's helping as much as she can fight these lions. And while everyone is fighting these lions, or while honestly all of them, they all get pretty banged up. Alexis gets pretty banged up, Fluffy Jr. gets pretty banged up, and Nyx gets pretty banged up. And banged up's not even the word. Like at one point, one of the lines was like going to go at Alexis, and Nyx like intervene. And then all of a sudden Nyx is like, kid, I'm like very injured. And she's bleeding a lot to the point where she says she needs to sleep to heal. And at this point, Alexis is done. She's just like, she is she always comes into power, or she finds her strength when she needs to help other people, and she's putting Fluffy Jr. into this mess. She put Nyx into this mess, like, and so now she's like getting her strength. And I don't know if there's like a metaphor, because like Hercules is supposed to be strong, but like this is when she gets her strength to like continue to fight forward. So she keeps saying that she needs to keep fighting for Fluffy Jr. and for Nyx. Now, at this point, she has like, between Fluffy Jr., Nyx, and her, the lions, she's like pretty much killed them all. Her hands are kind of glowing at this point. And she's just like, she doesn't know what it's from. But when she was killing one of the lions, like this last lion, it like jumped on her. She's already bleeding, and she somehow formed a rod that she didn't know she could do, and she cut the lion as it like ran into her, and it used her blood. And so at this point, she's like struggling to get up. She's looking around to see who saved her, and she can't see anyone. And then she realizes that she saved herself, and she's holding this rod with like like a circular thing at the end, and it's just completely made of her blood. And again, she's just wondering what's happening. Her hands are glowing. She has this rod. She doesn't understand what's going on. At this point, Fluffy Jr. has lion scars on him. Nyx can barely move. And as I said, Alexis is pissed, and she just like yells at Zeus, and she points her rod at him, and she's like, this is all your fault. And so then Zeus points his scepter thing at her, and now Hades is done. He's making fog all over the people in the stands. They're all screaming. Then, Zeus puts the specter down. Hades calls the fog back. And then the gates open again, and immediately Ares, surprisingly, Ares jumps up and is like against what's going on. Hades is like, what's going on? And Zeus just says, the Federation ruled this was appropriate to test her might. She defeated them before, she can do it again. Hades yells, do you want war? And Zeus plays all innocent and is like, of course not. This is about her honor. This is about Hercules' honor. Like, I would never do that. End of chapter. Chapter. What are your thoughts before we get into the next chapter? Yes.
Okay, I have a little bit of a here. Did Alexis actually defeat those titans with wings? I would argue that Alexis fought them and Augustus defeated them. He was the one who tagged them. He was the one who dragged them. She beat them up real good, but
I have to agree. And Augustus goes back and says that in his book. He was like, she had done 90% of like the work, that he wasn't going to take her credit. But like, yeah, he technically did defeat them.
yeah, I just took
But
a
here
little
we
bit of
are.
issue with that.
Chapter 44, The Labors of Hercules continue. It's an Alexis chapter. These are what walk out are the two titans that Alexis fought back in Rome. Fluffy Jr. is now twitching and his hump is glowing, and Alexis just thinks to herself, is this why they made us tag them all later, so that they could use them against us, like during the SGC? Because before, there would have been no way for them to have tagged them.
Are they the
So
same
at this
ones?
point, yeah, they're the exact same one. So at this point, Alexis knows that Zeus is trying to eliminate her. Like, she's like, he wants me dead. Then all of a sudden, Alexis hears like a ripping sound, and she thinks it's coming from like the Titan. She looks at them, but it's not. It's coming from Fluffy Jr., and his hump like split open. The Titans are like ready to attack. Their wings are like spread. And remember, someone put these wings on the Titans because they're not supposed to be able to fly. Something's still going on with Fluffy Jr., but Alexis doesn't have time to react. And like, when she thinks someone's in trouble, she just like acts. So she just like runs towards the Titan with the rod made out of her blood and attacks them. Their like talons or claws, whatever, they do get Alexis on her side, but she does manage to use the rod to like cut into both of them. And she uses her powers to like quote unquote kill them. But we all know it's temporary because the Titans are technically immortal. So like you need to like decapitate them or like injure them more than like just using her blood. So at this point, the Titans are temporarily passed out. Alexis is losing a lot of blood, but she heads over to Fluffy Jr. He's panting heavily. He's like laying on his stomach. Alexis touches Nyx, who's very quiet, wrapped around her leg. And then there's this line in this book, and I absolutely love it. And it says, Alexis knows it's better to die fighting monsters than live cowering at their feet. So she like gets up and she's ready to face the Titans again. because they're slowly coming back to life, but she doesn't really have the energy to like fight them at this point. Fluffy Jr. also gets up now and he is taller than Alexis. And then he starts making this sound. And it's the same terrifying sound that she heard in book one in the Miragerie. Like she was like, oh my God, these monsters, let me always try to get away from them. Turns out it's the Fluffy Jr. is making this exact same sound. So I'm assuming now that that was his pack or his herd. I'm not really sure what you call a dog slash horse herd. Like one's a pack, one's a herd, but whatever. It was his family. Fluffy Jr. then stands up, spreads his wings. His wings are much bigger than the Titans, and so he is half dog, half Pegasus. Alexis gets it, like Fluffy Jr. like bows down, she gets it, she jumps on his back, and they face the Titans together. Alexis kills the Titan with Fluffy Jr.'s help, like he makes sure their heads get ripped off and he eats them, ensuring they're not going to come back to life. And this whole time she's just like, Fluffy Jr. is not the smartest, not the brightest. And while all of this happened, she managed to like fall. And like the Titans, like they're all hurting her. She's fallen many times, but just so we all know, the calculator still survives. Apparently it's like bulletproof and everything. And so nothing is happening like with this calculator. She, between the lions and the Titans, her good eye is now like super swollen and she can barely see out of it. So not very good. When she's like fighting the Titans before Fluffy Jr. like decapitates it, she like lands and she kind of lands on Nyx a little bit, but that's when she realizes Nyx's scales are freezy. And so finally, because Fluffy Jr. is eating the heads, Nyx reveals herself to her, and Nyx is like almost cut in two. And Nyx just says, I love you, kid. And at this point, I am like, oh my God, no, you can't kill Nyx. I love Nyx. Like, my soul was like dying on the inside. And the book is just like the Nyx's scales grow colder. And I'm really just like, oh my God, Nyx. You can't die. Like, at least make it to some great war if you're going to die. Like, don't die in a fucking arena. You could have killed Drax off. Like, don't kill Nyx off. Then Alexis gets very emotional. So she's hugging Nyx with her chest, but she also has the rod with her blood in the other hand. And so she starts to like cry and whatnot, but she's holding both of them close to her heart. Her hands start to like vibrate and glow. And then all of a sudden, Nyx's body, like the part that was touching the rod, starts to heal. And then her whole body starts to heal. And then the sun comes out. So now Zeus can no longer wield his power. Nyx gets up and says, it's so warm, and wraps herself around the rod. And Nyx says she's seen this in a dream. I don't know if that's foreshadowing. I don't know what it means because we don't really come back to this. But apparently Nyx has seen this in a dream. I feel like the line's just like out of nowhere and intentional. So maybe Nyx also can see the future at some point. I don't know. Nyx wraps herself around the rod. Fluffy Jr. stands up behind Alexis and spreads his wings. And Alexis realizes this is the same symbol Cersei had drawn. There was the line with the circle and the squiggly line and all that. So the line with the circle is the staff or slash her rod. The squiggly line was the snake, and the wings were the clouds. The wings represented creatures, the snakes, Chthonics, and the glowing rod, Olympians. Hades was Chthonic, Persephone was the daughter of a dark creature and Demeter. Alexis came from all three. I also think because she came from all three, she made all those comments before saying like, do the Cyclopes really want to fight? Like, I don't think any of these creatures really want to fight. And like, she's going to be the reasons why like a lot of this stops, because she's going to be able to be like, the creatures don't want this. She's going to be able to speak for them. So Alexis has the rod of Asclepius. I think that's how you pronounce it, but it's like the healing, their symbol of like healing. Her power is healing in life and pretty much death. Which is Hades and Persephone, the god of the underworld, and Persephone is technically the goddess of spring. So, end of chapter. Thoughts?
There are not a lot of chapters in this book that kind of tie other elements together. We get a lot of chapters that are like movement, progression forward, and it's you got to remember this thing or remember that thing. And I mean, conveniently at the end of the book, as it should be, is when you start to get all of these bits being tied together. And it's like, oh, it makes sense. So not only is it tying it all together for us as participants in the book, but I think it's also making everything make sense for Alexis, which we haven't seen a lot of, where she's starting to recognize this thing that I learned, or this thing that I saw before, or this thing that I previously experienced. Now this is all coming together. And in this chapter, and then in the next couple of chapters that we get to, I think she goes even further with being more comfortable in her life as a Chthonic and as a Spartan. And so it's kind of interesting to see her have this moment of this battle, of this torture, of this kind of like, going back to the crucible and all that sort of stuff. And her fighting and her battling. But this time it's not that it's easier for her, but it's more like she's able to put together what's going on faster. She does have moments of like, I'm so injured and I don't know what's going on and I need to get back together with it. But I feel like at the end of this chapter, it all really comes together for her. And she's like, oh, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Here's how I'm going to execute it. This makes sense to me now.
I'm a badass.
I don't know that she fully believes she's a badass yet. I think she's going to get there, right? She still has enough humility that she doesn't see her. I mean, none of us see ourselves in the way that other people see us, like fully, right? And so I think she still doesn't see the badassery that like the people of Rome saw, or that her husband saw in her first battle with the winged titans. She's gonna get there.
I love it. I agree. It's baby steps. Baby steps. Chapter 45. Who did this to you? It's an Alexis chapter, and then shit just gets interesting. It's clear that the other people like in the stands realize what the symbol is and what Alexis represents. So Nyx goes back to being invisible. And I just have like a quick question with that, because technically Nyx is level 7, kill on sight. Like, if other people recognize that, are they gonna go after Nyx in like book 3? Or do they just think she's like a snake? Like, not necessarily the poisonous level 7 snake, but just like a snake. I don't know. We don't really get an answer to this, but she did show herself.
Yeah.
And then
that's the thing.
Made herself invisible.
If I'm in the stands and I'm watching this battle, and I'm watching it, right? Because this shit is good. I'm like, whoa, this is insanity. I would notice a snake, especially because when Nyx makes herself visible, Alexis is right there to see that Nyx is basically almost cut in half. Right? So I'm watching Alexis. So if Nyx becomes visible and Alexis is right there, I'm going to see this snake. Here's my question. Can a creature like Nyx choose who they make themselves visible to? Like, if you make yourself visible, are you just visible to everybody?
She made herself. So Nyx had to have made herself visible to everybody because everyone recognized the symbol, and the snake is part of the symbol, the squiggly line. So for people to recognize that that's the symbol, they had to have seen Nyx. So I don't know what this means, because she's level 7 now. Everybody's seen her. But, Jasmine, please answer that question, because I just thought Nyx would always be safe because she would be invisible. But everyone's seen it now. Maybe now, technically, maybe because she's part of like Alexis and the staff or whatnot, maybe she is the only level 7 that's, hands off. I don't know. But
also the reason that the guys knew that Nyx was level 7 was because of her eye color, right? Like, that was very distinct. When Nyx became visible to the boys, they were like, are those purple eyes? So maybe when Nyx was on the staff, her eyes were closed. I'm sorry, if I were dying and like cut in half and on deathbed, I would probably have my eyes closed.
No, that's actually a good point. That's what I'm saying. So maybe they just think she's just like another snake and not a level 7 snake. So I love this. What we're going with here. Love it.
I'd still be like, the fuck? Where'd that snake come from?
All right.
But I'm not accustomed to invisible animals, so.
It's very true. They are, though. Zeus yells, 3rd round, 2 more labors. And I mean, it's not like we haven't been mentioning the last few chapters, but at this point, Hades has said multiple times, like, are you ready for war? Like Zeus, you know what I mean? Like he's like actively saying it, but to your point, nothing's happening. And it's like, duh, we all knew some shit was going to go down during hers. But at this point, Alexis is just feeling herself, and she's just ready to face whatever is going to come out. And then the gates open and out walk Charon and Augustus, they're in cuffs and they're covered with bruises. And it's like, hello, this is literally what Hermos and Agatha had to do. Zeus has been he's been repeating rounds that you're not supposed to be repeating or whatnot. Alexis remembers that you have to defeat them and make them, in order to defeat them, you have to make them unconscious. You don't necessarily have to kill them. So the men walk towards Alexis, and Alexis starts to walk back. And Karin's just taken aback, and he's like, you don't really think we're going to harm you right now. And Alexis takes another step back. Then Augustus turns out he could start communicating with people in their heads. That's like how his power has grown. So he can communicate with Alexis like in her head. And so they're just having a conversation via their minds. And he tells her that she will face them. And Karin is just like, why are you walking back? And Alexis responds, you have to defeat me. I won't let you get branded. Not again. Not for me. Excuse me. And Karin's just in disbelief. He goes on to say that, like, he's been so much open. He loves her. He gave her his ear. What more does he have to do to prove his love? And at this point, like, Karin's not hearing Alexis, and he's just, like, not understanding what she's trying to say, because what she's really is saying, the same reason why the men don't want to fight her is the same reason she doesn't want to fight them, and she has to take the L. It has nothing to do with him not proving his love or whatnot, but I do think this isn't Karin's character to be like, he's overprotective. He wants to, and he didn't come from like a loving family. So I do think, like, in retrospect, it is hard for him to like see this side. But Alexis is pretty much telling him this is the same reason why I don't
Yeah.
want to fight you.
But that's also a jump that I think is easier for Karin to make, because Karin and Augustus have been being tortured, right?
Mhm.
And so Karin and Augustus were in a position that they knew they would be facing Alexis well before Alexis did, right? Like, I'm sure at some point they had
That's
to
true.
assume, you know. So Karin's had time to work with the idea of, oh, we're going to have to go face Alexis. We're going to demand that she defeats us. And Alexis is
Mhm.
just now learning this information. So he's not even giving her the ability to really process, like, oh shit, it's my husband's.
Yeah,
Little unfair.
agreed.
Calm down, Karin. Take a beat.
So Augustus explains that the reason why they were not there for her when she woke up is because they were drugged at the symposium, which I also question, because every other person who was getting interrogated like never really made it to the symposium outside of Drax. So in theory, Augustus should have never made it to the symposium, but whatever. For the plot of the story, we'll continue. And by the time that they came to from the drugs, Alexis was already fighting. And when they tried to leap in because they realized it was so unfair, the guards took. Alexa's good eye is now swollen shut and she cannot see, but she keeps saying that she cannot do this. And then that's when Augustus figures it out, because he's like, your good eye is still, he's like, your left eye is still fine. The left eye is on the same side as her deaf ear. And so he's like, oh shit, you're blind. So Karin doesn't get it right away. And then Augustus says it out loud. Karin's in denial. He's like, that's not true. But Alexis confirms she is deaf and blind out of her left side. And remember, they're in an arena. So like now everyone's just fighting or screaming, like, fight, like they want this third round. But right now, all the married couple is doing is just hugging. Zeus wants the round to start, but it's a sunny day, so he really can't threaten them the same way that he threatened Hermos and Agatha. But Augustus is like, we need to continue this. And so he's like, Alexis, you're going to have to stab me or stab both of us. And Alexis is just like, you're going to have to make me. And then Augustus says in her head, I tried to warn you. Karin tells Alexis he loves her. And then he tells Augustus to do what they promised, what they like spoke about. And then Augustus like does his power and makes Karin pass out. And then so he's technically rendered unconscious. And then Augustus does need Alexis to like use her body to like hurt him. So he essentially like pushes her up against the wall. Like he walks her up and corners her up against the wall. He grabs her rod and he's like, you need to stab me. She says no. And she's like, I can't like brand you. You haven't done this. And he was like, this brand, I will wear it with pride. And so he grabs the staff and like grabs her hand and like forces it through his heart. So the round is over. Zeus like jumps into the arena. He brands Charon and Augustus. And then he pretty much tells, and then he like tells Alexis, like, you don't know the game that you're playing with. Remember, you still have to walk outside this stand before I don't brand you. And so she makes sure she makes it outside of the stand or outside of the arena, I mean. End of chapter. Chapter 46. I think this one gets interesting and we're gonna have so much to say.
You
Chapter
know,
46.
I do wish though that the husbands had gone about it a little bit differently and been like, look, if you don't defeat us, we're never gonna torture you ever again.
I think, in the moment, all these people, that's not what they were going for. And they have like a 30-minute limit. So, I think they're just trying to like make sure she like wins at this point.
Yeah. Could have made it kinky.
Yeah.
Come on, Karen.
They
Get
could have.
weird.
Maybe.
Use those chains. Let's see what you can do.
Chapter 46, interrogations. It's an Alexis chapter. So Alexis is now chained, just like Karen was, like in this cave-like room, cell, whatever we want to call it. Nyx is with Alexis, but she is invisible. Nyx tells Alexis she feels great and the power healed her. And I think it's just like the type of writing the author does is just like hilarious because like Alexis just like unrelatable. I feel like I'm gonna die. Like, thanks, Nyx. Zeus Zeus shows up and is like, Alexis hurt. And this is the first time Alexis has said, call me Hercules. Like, she is fully taking on her chthonic role in what she needs to do. And Zeus is like, or I'm sorry, Alexis is like, I know everything. And Zeus is like, you're bluffing. And then Alexis just lays it all out. And Alexis explains that when Vico said at the graduation, so everything that Vico said at the graduation ceremony was technically true, but it wasn't the whole truth. So when Patrol used his powers, he technically wasn't lying. Alexis confronts Zeus and says, you were the one behind the Titan attacks, not Medusa. You framed her. You used the Titan attack as a distraction so Vico could kidnap me and kill me. Vico also illegally bonded with an echidna that he enslaved, aka Nyx. But remember, Alexis, like, sternum was like cut. So somehow in between the leaping from Sparta to Montana, Vico had to have like touched her blood, and Hercules Alexis must have used her power, which is why rendering him unconscious, which is why when he said he woke up and Alexis was missing, that technically was the truth. So he wasn't lying. He just assumed that the baby was taken by Titans because it was a baby. So again, he wasn't lying. Like he was saying the truth, but Zeus was very specific and when he was like asked these questions. So like Patrol couldn't distinguish between this, like his being able to lie and not lie. Nyx is finally happy that Alexis figured it out because she couldn't tell her who she was bonded with because of the oath/bond that she was illegally forced to have. And to make sure she gets under like Zeus's skin, Alexis hits him with his pride and is like, tell me I'm wrong, you spineless, weak, pathetic, powerless coward. So of course, Zeus thinks they're all alone right now. No one's there. It's just them two. He don't know about Nyx. And he admits everything she said is correct. But then he's like, is that all you know? I was worried. Like, if that's all you know, it could be nothing. And so now I'm like, what are the rest of these secrets? Like, what else do we not know? Because she just laid out a lot of shit and I'm shocked. So what else are these secrets? Zeus thinks he's safe, and so then he calls Patrol in. At first, Patrol is reluctant, but grabs Alexis' hand, and Zeus asks the questions. When Patrol grabs her arm, Alexis like stares into his eyes, trying to communicate with him. Like the book is like she is trying so hard to like communicate with him without saying anything. And Zeus asks, do you know Medusa's whereabouts? Alexis says no, and Patrol says she's telling the truth, but Patrol's like squeezing her arm right now. Like it's not normal, like what's going on. Zeus then asks again, like, did you facilitate the escape of Medusa? Again, Alexis says no, and Patrol's like gripping her arm so tight right now, but he says she's telling the truth. And so at this point, it's like a death grip, and like Patrol and Alexis are also secretly having a conversation that we all don't know about. So clearly Alexis is lying. And this is when I start to figure out some of what's going on. I'm like, okay, she's lying. She knows who Medusa is. What is another female character that we know? So like slowly I'm starting to put two and two pieces at this point. Zeus is like, whatever, like whatever, and then tells Patro, let's go. And Patro like stays put. He's like, he wasn't gonna leave her. Zeus is like, remember Achilles, and Patro actually like still is like gonna stay put next to Alexis, and Alexis is like, no, don't like go with him. Like, I'll be fine. And so he reluctantly leaves, but you know, he leaves. Zeus then, lets 6 guards come in to interrogate, aka beat Alexis up. He leaves with Patro. Alexis just tells Nyx, kill them. And Nyx is on cloud fucking 9 because she's like, with the utmost pleasure.
Nyx finally gets what she's wanted for 2 books. This snake has been waiting for 2 books for Alexis to be like, do it. Finally gets it.
Yeah. So Nyx kills all the men / guards, and they have like no idea what's going on. And so Alexis tries to break free of her chains, but she can't. So she's trying to call forth her rod or staff, but again, she can't. And she's like, she needs fresh blood. So I do think that might be important for later books. Like, she can't do, at least right now, so she can control her power. She can't just like call upon this staff. Like, she needs fresh blood. So one of the guards does manage to like hit Alexis in the face, but Nyx gets him like right after he hits Alexis. So Alexis uses the fresh blood to make the rod, and she makes like the rod just like cuts through the chains. And so she leaps to the symposium, and she leaps in front of her husbands who are tied and gagged. And when they see her, they easily break free of her restraints. And Alexis is like, if you guys could get out, what the fuck were you guys just waiting here this whole time? Apparently, they worked up a deal with Patrol, and they were going to stay like chained in quotes. Like, they were going to pretend that they couldn't move until he got back to tell them where she was, like where they were interrogating her. So, maybe this chapter should be called A Little Bit of Redemption, like Patrol, because like he's really trying right now. So I give it to him. Her husband realizes that she has new bruises and are demanding to know who gave it to her. What did they look like? And Alexis is like, psh, I handled them by killing them. Her husbands are so proud of her. Augustus gives Alexis a kiss, and Nyx is like, I helped. Where's my thank you? Alexis tells Karen and Augustus that she needs to do something, and she needs them not to interfere and to trust her. Augustus says, of course, Karen has a little bit of trouble just saying that. And so Augustus has to make him shut up. But we get another great line from Nyx during this. And Nyx is like, wow, that's sexy. I need to find 4 or 5 good men like that. Only a harem could handle all this woman. You know what I mean? And, not even a near-death experience is going to stop Nyx from being Nyx. And I absolutely love it. Alexis like runs to the speaker on stage, and she has a recording that she needs to like air. So thanks to Lena, there's like a note with instructions that thankfully, because Alexis can speak to creatures, she can read creature writing too. And so she plugs in her recorder, and the recording is a whole conversation she had with Zeus, where he admits to the Titan attack, framing Medusa, kidnapping her as a baby. Now the Chthonics and Olympians are like, what the fuck? And the Olympians are like, you almost started another war. And like everyone now is like turning against Zeus. The Fae stands on a chair with her pipe. It is very important. She is smoking her pipe. She is getting high. And she says, the Federation has been betrayed by Zeus. And then the Fate winks at Alexis. And so, of course, now all the leaders like want Zeus to answer these questions. And because no one thought he was going to leap away, Zeus leaps away. So Alexis looks over to see Patrol talking to Achilles, and it does not look good. And all of a sudden, they leap away. Fate is still talking, and she's standing on her chair, saying stuff like, at this turn of the century, all of Sparta applauds. The Federation falls to the exposer of the gods. People are like saying the prophecy has been fulfilled. Here's the thing. I don't agree with it because, and we get some of the prophecy at the end, and it's like the prophecy can't be done because like we don't even have all our answers. Also, Zeus is still on the loose. Like just that in itself. Like, really, Zeus doesn't have any other friends that are gonna help him. Vico literally laid his life out for him. Like, pause, guys. The prophecy is not fully fulfilled. Maybe partly, but not fully. Alexis turns to her husband and says she needs them to leap to Helen's room right away. And when she lands in the room, she yells for Cersei, but it's too late. End of chapter. Thought.
I'm still very humored that all of these men have seen what Alexis Hercules is capable of doing and are still like, "No, I'm gonna stay in this room with you." Girl, she don't need you. Go, right? And then her
Yeah.
husbands are like, "Are you sure you wanna go do a thing?" And it's like, "Bro, she's fine. I get it. It's part of, like, the I'm a man and I'm gonna take care of you, right? It's part of the characters. It's part of what makes, like, how they behave in the book hot or whatever." But, it's like it's like when people convince themselves that what they've seen with their own eyes isn't real.
Mm.
I'm like, right? And especially with Karin, right? Because he still has this whole thing where he's, like, trying to prove to Alexis that he has value to her and that he loves her, and it's like, you have seen multiple times that she doesn't actually need your protection, that she has the tools and the capability and the understanding in her powers now to be able to take care of herself. At some point, Karin, you're going to have to choose or figure out that she is choosing to have you around.
Mhm.
Let it go. Go to therapy, figure it out, come back.
Love it. Love it. Go to therapy. And I've said this before, they all need therapy, but yes, go to therapy, Cara. Go to therapy. I love it. Chapter 47, the impersonator is revealed. It's an Alexis chapter. And now shit really hits the fan in this chapter. Shit gets revealed. This was a good chapter. Alexis runs into the adjoining room of Helen's and finds Patros and Achilles cornering Cersei. Apparently, this is not the first time that this has happened. Then Cersei punches Patro in the face, and of course, Achilles has to get in front of him. And Patro's just being Patro and yelling obscene shit and calling her like all of these words and like bitch and all this, but it's just Patro being Patros. And then, but he does say, I've always known that you were a liar. And now Cersei starts standing up for herself and is like, you play the fool. Careful, predetermination doesn't smile kindly on those who spit on the face of others with foresight too. And Patra responds, I know all about your kind, and his face twists with like anguish and like disgust. And immediately this is when I figured out who Cersei was. And I'm actually very happy because I hate when I figure stuff out right away. And the author did a great job at like hiding it until now. So I applaud that. I like when I can't figure it out right away. But when he was disgusted and he says, I know all about your kind, I immediately knew who Cersei was. And so Patrol then lunges for Cersei and pulls her hair, which is a wig. And then three pale pink serpents rise from her head. And I'm cannot put the book down at this point. I'm so like I am like it, like tell me more. Patra looks at Alexis and starts yelling at her. He cannot believe she actually did it. She's the reasons for all the interrogations. Like she's the reason that he had to participate in these interrogations. She's the reason why everyone got hurt. And like he I think is just also hurt with Alexis. Like and this is also kind of like has she brought more people in earlier? Could it have helped? I don't know. But this is why it was very important when, like, I think 2 episodes ago when Alexis tried to tell Karan and Augustus that she had Medusa and she didn't. They're just like, "We'll protect you no matter what." And we were like, it would have played out differently. It would have because if Zeus had asked those exact same questions, Patra would have figured it out
Mhm.
with them too and not. So it's just like, everything worked out. So of course the husbands have something to say and they're like, you better apologize to our wives, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't speak to her that way. But Alexis realizes that Patrol keeping the secret when she was getting interrogated, like him doing that, he didn't need to do that. And so like he also respects that. Or I'm sorry, she respects that. And she like I think can see that Patrol's at least trying. And he did this knowing that Achilles could be sent away if he was caught. So he technically at this time picked her over Achilles. So Alexis did free Medusa, and she is just again very thankful Patra went along with it. In Patrol's mind, Medusa's still a criminal. And not I wouldn't say even a criminal. I think he's more scared of Gorgons and doesn't like Gorgons. So I think it's more that is the real reason. Um, but Alexis and Medusa have like a silent exchange. Like they don't say anything out loud. They cannot read each other's mind. But I think every girl at some point, or not even girl, every person has been in a situation where if someone else knows another secret of theirs and they're about to reveal it and they're like staring at you with death eyes, like, please don't reveal it. That's kind of what's happening right now with Alexis and Medusa. And so Alexis is just kind of like, thinking they need to know what you went through because they wouldn't be acting this way. And Medusa just like shakes her head no. And Patrol continues his ranting because Patrol's Patrol. Achilles signs to Alexis, how could you? You put everyone in danger. You put Patrol in danger. And Alexis signs back, if you saw what I did, what they did to her, you would have done the same. And Achilles is like, no, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't, like, I will always pick Patrol. And then I just start to think of something else that happened lots of chapters back that I told my brain to remember. And I literally said this, I think, in our first episode. I was like, this happened. And I just told my brain, I need to remember this. Because at this point, we know she broke Medusa out, but we don't know how she broke out Medusa, right? Achilles and Alexis continue to sign. And Karen is like, what are you saying to my wife? Like, I want to know. And a few episodes back, you were like, they know sign language. And I was like, no, 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 it's only Patrol. And this is just great proof that like all of this happens and Patrol and Achilles only really have each other. Like no one else learned to sign to communicate with him. So then
That is
Augustus is
so
like,
rude. So rude. I'm sorry. If your bestie can only communicate with you via sign language, like fucking learn.
yeah. So I agree that is rude. But I also think that's another reason why Patrol and Achilles are so like codependent and like so dependent on each other is because they really only have, especially in Achilles, he can only at this point really communicate with Patrol. So
And
Augustus is
Charlie.
like, and Charlie now, and now technically Alexis because she knows how to sign too.
More interested in the Charlie part.
There's no Charlie after this. After these next two chapters, there is no Charlie. Augustus in your mind, there's that, and we'll continue to let that. So Augustus is genuinely intrigued with like, how did you even do this? So Alexis goes back to her story. My last sleep during the initiation hunt, when I tried to get to Hades on Creek, I leapt, but something went wrong, and I ended up in the underworld. Dun dun dun. End of chapter. I'll just continue because the story just like continues. Chapter 48, Medusa, Alexis. This is 1 month earlier. This is it's in May, 1 month earlier. So now we're back to the initiation night where she got shot. She shouldn't have leapt that many times. So she jumped into she jumped. She leaped into this cave and she heard a woman screaming. And we start the chapter with in the same cave with the woman screaming. Nyx tells Alexis that they have to get out of here, and Alexis is like, do you hear that? Nyx admits that she does, and Nyx realizes that they're in the underworld in the prison. And Alexis is like, I can't leave, I need to help her. And Nyx says, I support you. So they head towards the screaming. They find, and like I'm quoting exactly from the book because you have to paint a picture here, and I think the book does a great job just painting this picture. A woman was strapped and chained to a titanium table. She wore a blue hospital gown, a metal box set over her forehead, and her hair in a clear mask with tube covering her mouth, attached to a strange beeping machine. Green letters flashed across it, 8 Statius, 21 years old. The woman opened her mouth and screamed into the device, squeezing her eyes shut, the rest of her body unmoving. 2 men, actually 2 guards, were sexually assaulting this woman. And they were saying things like, are you sure she can't feel anything? It sure sounds like she can. And like trigger warnings, we do get the trigger warning in the beginning of the book, but this is what Medusa has been enduring this whole time that she has been in her age stasis when she's been out in the underworld. Alexis tells Nyx to kill them, but Nyx already is gone. She didn't even wait for Alexis. Like Alexis, like, wait, where's Nyx? Nyx is already like killing the guards. So Nyx is a girl's girl. Absolutely love it. Nyx takes down one of the guards and then like shows herself, and then the second guard like is like shocked and tries to attack Alexis. But Alexis, remember, she's bleeding. She has this gun wound. She just uses her blood to kill him, and so he dies. Alexis and Nyx free the woman and then remove the box from her head, but they immediately know it's Medusa because the only person who's ever been in stage ACEs is Medusa. Nyx is able to communicate with the snakes and like comfort them because they're like very scared. And then Medusa just like passes out. And so Alexis needs to like carry slash drag, because remember, Alexis is also very hurt, her out. So they're trying to find their way out from the underworld or out of this prison. Hades then like approaches his daughter and is like shocked. And he's like, "Daughter, what are you doing here?" And he came because an alarm went off. And Hades makes it clear that this part of the prison under the is like owned by the Federation. He has no jurisdiction here. And Alexis is like, "I don't care. I don't need your help. I'm doing this by myself." And then Hades tells Alexis, "The houses of Hades is known as the house of death because we feel passionately about something. We wage war always." And this is his way of saying, "I got your back." So he leaps them all back to Crete. They're greeted by Persephone and Charlie. Everyone agrees to like keep the secret, but they cannot keep Medusa in Crete long because it's the first place the Federation is going to look, along with all the other safe houses. But in the meantime, Persephone says if anyone lands here who is not supposed to, the island will attack them. So for now, Medusa is safe. Hades takes Alexis back to the hospital where she can get medical attention because, again, she leaped 3 times while shot. And when she lands, when Hades takes her to the hospital, she like literally passes out. She has no more adrenaline. She's done. And this is the same night where we find out that all the younger Chthonics have to stay together in the villa because Medusa is free. So just remember all of that, like back in these chapters long ago. And if we go back, that same chapter says Alexis couldn't sleep, and then she heard a woman screaming. And that's when, and then the book just says that's when Helen and her found Ceres, and Helen was smart enough to get Patrick just to ask that one question, the loophole with his powers. In this same chapter, Karen notices that Alexis has a fresh blood wound on her arm, but she says she was having nightmares and she gave it to herself in her sleep. And in this whole chapter, Augustus keeps saying the alarm says 2 Spartans leaped in, and Helen's like, "Nope, it lied. We've been here the whole time." So what actually happened is Alexis did in fact hear a woman screaming. When she found her, she recognized her as Circe, the woman who helped Theros, and this is the same guy who kidnapped her in book 1. did Alexis asked, like, "Did you help kill the other, like, House of Zeus heirs for Theros?" And Circe pretty much admits yes. Alexis cuts her arm and kills Circe. That's when Helen walks in, and Helen says, "I owe you my life. Let me help." And so she says, "Okay, they're going to help." So she gets a wig that could pass for Circe and gives it to Medusa. And Helen's been around these men her whole life, and she's like, "Trust me, they're never going to notice. This is not Circe." And she proves them right. They don't recognize that it's not actually Circe. And I also question because, like, did they not recognize Medusa? Because, like, that's Karen, that's your sister. Like they've all met her. Like, her stage aces was 21. Like, they've met her. Like, Zeus had to frame her. So maybe not like, maybe the younger ones were too young to know, like, because Augustus is the oldest. Karen's not far behind them, so maybe Patro and Achilles are even younger, so they wouldn't have recognized her, or Helen. But like, I'm very shocked that like Karen didn't recognize his own sister, and Augustus didn't recognize his own, like, I think his cut. I don't know what. I don't know. I have to look at the thing. But I'm just like, so you guys didn't even just. She didn't like. They didn't kidnap Medusa when she was like 10. Like, her age, I believe, was 2021 when they got her. So like, but loopholes in the book.
Well, you change
Oh,
someone's hair.
I
But
guess.
I
I
love
guess.
that. I loved that little bit of Helen being like, "Nah, these idiot men won't notice."
And they didn't.
Yeah. Anytime it's like, "Oh, let's lie to the boys," Helen's like, "Yeah, I'm in. Let's go."
I
She's
got
like,
this.
"These
I've been doing it
morons."
for years.
Yeah,
I know how to work this.
yeah. She's totally like, "These idiots." I love that that's her whole vibe is like,
Mm.
"Yeah, they're my family and I love them and they protect me, but they're dumb. Let's go."
So Alexis leaps back to Crete with the dead body, with Circe's dead body, and tells Persephone she needs to get rid of this body. And Persephone's like, "Of course, daughter, you've come to the right spot. Like, this is normal." Then Alexis and Medusa leap back to the villa. So when Augustus was saying two Spartans leaped in, yes, it was Medusa and Alexis. End of the chapter. So I think that was a great chapter, very well described. I think we were given so many clues, but I also think we were given so many clues so far apart that we weren't like putting two and two together because and then in the recent chapters it was like Helen was like, I'm scared. Like, what are we gonna do? Because she knew the whole time that like that was Medusa. So like I like so many clues were given to us, and like if you picked it up, like I applaud you. I'm someone who normally can't pick up things in books, and I didn't. And I told myself to remember the screaming woman at the end, like when we first read it. Like I remember saying that, like remember this. So I love that I couldn't put two and two together.
And also too, the way that this is the chapter where, like, all of the pieces get put together of what previously went down, and the way that the author explained it in all of those previous chapters of, this is this character and all of these different things, and it's like, it made sense, right? The author sold the lie,
Mhm.
right?
A great job. I love it.
Yeah. The writing of these last couple of chapters is just like, "Oh, shit, like, this is getting going now." Right?
Mhm.
It makes it very clear that we are wrapping up this storyline.
Yep. Love it. Love it. I'm here for it. Chapter 49, Federation meeting. This is a Medusa chapter now. So Medusa is the point of view 2 weeks later. And I love that we get a new point of view. And it in the audiobook, because I'm doing immersive reading, I believe it's a different narrator. I don't think it's the same girl.
Mhm.
So
It
love
is.
it. Everyone is waiting for the Federation meeting to begin, where Athena is interim Federation speaker because Zeus is currently MIA and the House of Zeus has fallen. And I'm putting that in like quotes because I don't like the House of Zeus might have fallen, but like they haven't found Zeus. Zeus was way too powerful. He's not an idiot. Like he has something up his sleeve still. Like the House of Zeus has fallen when you have Zeus. They don't. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And it's more like the House of Zeus is in disarray, right? Because Zeus isn't around, and then what was the name of the kid who was killing all the other kids? What's his nuts?
Theros, he's
Theros. Yeah. He's
yeah, I don't know what
dead,
he is,
we
but yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
We're
Oh
gonna
yeah, he's
assume
dead
with
because
dead.
he disappeared, Karan, and he disappeared. We all know what
Yeah.
that means with Karan then.
Yeah. Murdered. He's been murdered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he murdered all the other kids.
Yeah.
So, like, who's there? Is
Yeah.
anybody even there to represent the House of Zeus? Like, maybe not
Oh, I
fallen,
mean,
but
I'm sure. Yeah. I
disarray.
think there are other ones. I just don't think none of them were considered heirs. But who knows? But you're right. This house is an array. We don't know. Their leader is gone.
Yeah,
So yeah, I agree.
yeah,
So they're starting the meeting at exactly noon, except Medusa keeps seeing 2:22 on the clock, and this is the third time she's seen this number. So she knows it means something. So she like writes it in her notebook that she like always carries around with her. She's also seeing like white dots of light everywhere, and she also knows that means something too. So she's like writing it down. Alexis asks her if she's like doing okay because she's all of a sudden acting weird. And Medusa thinks no, but, and I'm quoting from the book, as a previously incarcerated individual who's been labeled clinically insane by the Olympian doctors as a child, there's only one right answer. Oh, yeah, I'm doing fine. So it's like, we've all been there. We've all done that. And then she goes off on this rant to Alexis, which is clearly her way of dealing with like the uncomfortable. Like she rants. And like it is known when we get to the next two chapters, like all she does is talk and rant when she's like, she doesn't know how to feel and is uncomfortable. While the Federation start talking about like taxes and other important things, we get some new information about Medusa. Her creature heritage is overpowered by her Spartan genes and she is not built for war. The book says she's like short and curvy, and she says she's made to read. She was disowned by the heart by I'm sorry. She was disowned by the House of Artemis since birth. Gordon traits were not acceptable because she has three snakes. And I'm thinking Artemis chose to fuck a Gordon. Like no one told her to fuck a Gordon and get pregnant and like whatever. But whatever. I'm just gonna stay here.
season.
Well,
Accidents happen.
you chose to fuck a Gordon.
Is
So
there abortion
there are
in Sparta?
consequences to fucking a Gordon.
Do they have abortion?
No, but that's beside the point. My point is how you gonna disown the child when you're the one who did the deed to create the child?
'Cause you don't like
Like, you
it.
can't be because you can't be mad the baby came out half of what you fucked. Like, you fucked the Gorgon.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but l I don't know. I can get it. I can get being like, "Nah, you're not what I was looking for. You gotta,"
No.
but
And you already disowned or about to disown Karen. I don't know where in the age range that happens. Like, was she already taken by the Titans when Karen had a fight? But like, you don't got any kids. Like, you don't have, it's not like you have so many spares to be lying around. Like, you can't be just
look,
disowning children left and
this
right.
is just what we do in Sparta. We fuck and we disown. That's it. This is our
Clearly.
vibe.
Clearly. But then I start to think to myself, okay, remember they told us about Gorgons and their power. She has three. And one is very rare. So to have more than one means she's going to be very powerful. And again, I'm just thinking, why disown a powerful kid that, you know what I mean? Like, this is going to be your house, like, whatever. Then I went back to remember that one viewer who, like, said we never got the actual perspective of the parents. And then I'm thinking, is Artemis kind of nice? Does she maybe disown Medusa for other reasons that we don't know because we don't ever get an actual parent chapter or Sonic leader chapter. So I'm wondering now if there's more stuff to go along with this.
Was she forced to disown her?
Right, maybe. That's something I don't know. Not only was Medusa disowned by Artemis, but she was also disowned by the Gorgons because the Gorgons believe she had too much Spartan blood in her. She also has no inheritance and nowhere to go, and it's clear that she's no longer really welcome in the villa because now that Patro knows who she is and Patro's hatred towards Gorgon. And I also have so much to say about this too because, like, cool. Charon wasn't gonna, like, take his sister and, like, put him in a different house. Alexis wasn't gonna say, "Hey, you could stay with Persephone and Hades while we figure all this off." Like, when they were like, she had nowhere to go, I feel like that's false. She had a lot of places to go, but we didn't want to say that. We also learned that the stage stasis that she endured, like while she was incarcerated, it like made her so her body didn't like grow. So her powers are still like never fully developed because like nothing really grew. However, and her body was frozen, but her mind was not. So she remembers everything that was done to her. And then it goes to say that there was this horrible throbbing pain in her left arm that she refuses to tell anyone. And then the last thing is Medusa clearly has PTSD, which she should, from being sexually assaulted. And I'm going to go on and say even past sexually assaulted and that she was raped at some point during this time because it's brought up a lot in this chapter. Like she just like, don't think about it. You're here. Like the chapter does a great job at like showing that like she thinks about all the things that happened to her while she was like in stage aces. Finally, the federations are going to give their ruling on Medusa. Medusa's pardoned for all alleged crimes against Sparta under one condition. She must go to Rhodes Olympian University to get her master's like in fate studies because she can foresee the future. Medusa is excited for this and she's like, I have somewhere to go and she loves to read and learn. So she's like down for this. But Hades says no, it won't be safe for her. They are surrounded by the other Olympians because the war is still like on the verge of like breaking out and Medusa is still public enemy number one. Then Ares and Artemis whisper something into Hades' ears, and Hades proposes that the Crimson Duo go to the university to be her bodyguards and stay by her side 24/7. And remember, Artemis is the one to propose this. So it's like, ooh, what's your deal, mommy dearest? Like, now do you feel sorry for your child? Medusa's not up to date with the lingo and doesn't realize the Crimson Duo means Petra and Achilles. When she does realize this, she's not thrilled because she already feels unsafe around them. And now they're going to be her bodyguards. And she has a negative connotation with the word guards because they were the ones who were assaulting her all this time. Patrol's like, nope, I'm not doing this. And then Aphrodite comes in and says, you will obey orders, son, and puts him in his place. And Medusa says she'll agree to go to the university only if Alexis can come and study because Alexis always wanted to study. And Medusa goes on to say that she trusts Alexis. She feels safe with Alexis. And Alexis is like, yeah, I want to do it. And so the chapter ends with like the Federation like meeting coming to an end. And it says that they are still investigating any leads as to why the Titans are mutating. So far, nothing. End of chapter. Thoughts?
Okay, I get Medusa not feeling safe. Totally justified, right?
Hmm.
But in this chapter, I can get down with Karin and Augustus being pissed at her for being like, Alexis is going to come study with me. Like, are
Yes.
you serious? I just got my wife to trust me. I just got my wife to
Oh,
like
I
love
agree.
me and have intimacy with me and like
Mhm.
we're spending our life with her now and now you're like, "Oh, I'm going to yank her away. Bye."
Yeah. No, I agree 1000%.
I'd be mad. And I'm
Yeah.
also kind of intrigued that Alexis doesn't really protest a little bit, right? That she doesn't have this thing of, I'm in this chapter of my life and I'm doing this, you know. She just goes back to the, "Oh, I study and oh, I'm a nerd," and yada yada.
Oh, I love it. But like this is in the beginning of book one, that's all she wanted was to go to school. So and she's been through a lot, so I see it.
I don't know, I'd be like,
Disney
"Oh, I'm gonna stay home and get fucked."
now, chapter 50. It's called Corruption. It's an Alexis chapter. Guys, we've only been through two fucking books at this point. I'm pretty sure my Kindle was like 93%. We finally get a spicy chapter. Alexis gets some vitamin D. In fact, she gets 2 doses of vitamin D. So I am here for all of this. So it's after the Federation and Fluffy Jr. and Nyx are with Helen and Drax. How perfect that they're not going to be in the room with her. Alexis leaps to the villa and her husband's leap after her. And they all know what this means. Like they promised like once everything was done, she won her labors, like they were gonna make love. So they're like, "Are you ready?" And she's like, "Yep." And so then Alexis leaps them all into the dining room. And remember earlier in the book,
Hold up.
Karen had promised. Go ahead.
You gotta talk about how she leaps them to the dining room.
She gets seductive and whatnot. She's trying. She's our
She
little.
grabs their dicks. She
No,
leaps them
does
by
she? I
their
don't remember.
penises. Yes.
Did I
They're,
miss
like,
that?
in whatever space, and they're, like, rubbing on each other, and she's, like, fondling
Oh,
both of their penises, and while grabbing their penises, she leaps them.
I love that. I don't know, I must have missed that. I don't know how because I read this twice.
I did not. I
It's
was
very
like, "Huh?"
possible I missed that. I'm here for it.
No,
Go, girl.
I'm yeah, I'm not gonna miss the pervy details.
I
Those
miss
are
it.
for me.
Okay, so she grabs them by their dicks and leaps them into the dining room. And remember earlier in this book, Karen had promised that her and Augustus were gonna take turns fucking her for hours and passing her back and forth on the chairs. So now this chapter gets super spicy, and I encourage everyone to read it. Chapter 50, if we didn't get that the first time. Chapter 50, very spicy chapter. And things just get spicy. So now it starts off Karen's kissing her. This is behind her. There's lots of rubbing, lots of kissing happening. Then all of a sudden, Augustus sits in his chair and pulls out his penis and slowly starts to pleasure himself. Karan is getting to be fair, Augustus like puts Alexis on Charon, like sitting on the chair, like she's on top of him. Then he goes on and sit, but like now Charon's there and he's just like, I know this is your first time. We're gonna like take it easy. You know, he does a great job at it being her first time to the point where Alexis is like, I need for you to move. Like, I need for you to do something because I need it now. So they go and they start fucking. Again, a very spicy chapter. I encourage you to read it. He uses her power. He uses his powers on her to like again send them everything that like she's feeling. And then they both climax, and she thinks she's like done. And then Karen's like, oh no, now it's Augustus' turn. So then she like goes to Augustus, and she thinks she's going to like fuck him or make love to him. Sorry, they're very particular with this word. Make love to him the same way she did with Karan. Like, and he's like, no, you're gonna get it from behind while you sit on me this time, not like from the front. So different feelings, different sensations. So now Karan's watching Alexis and Augustus make love, and now he's slowly pleasuring himself. Go ahead.
And she's watching that. He's watching
Yes,
them,
and
and
she's watching
she's
it, so like she
watching
like goes
him
back and
watch
forth
them.
watching the men do their things.
Delightful.
So, you know, it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs, they're getting it on, and finally, they both climax. So now Alexis is really done. She's very tired, so they carry her back up. Karan with his washcloth goes and gets the washcloth and wipes in between her legs. Then she goes on to say that, like, they're tucking her in. Augustus is tucking her in like Poco, like, just for her, her ears are out, and she's just like, "How can people be so afraid of my husbands? Like, they're so loving." End of chapter. I don't know how else to describe the spicy chapter, but it was a very good spicy chapter. Like,
Yes.
please go read it.
It
It
wa
was
it
so
was
good.
very good. I was
It
totally like,
was
"Whoa, I wanna be fucked by 2 dudes on chairs."
yeah. Yeah, it was great.
But I think part of it too that makes it really good is the established intimacy between Karin and Augustus, right? Like, even
Mm.
if it's not a sexual intimacy, they have a lot of care and concern for each other. They are a team. They are it is very much a throuple vibe, and I think that's part of what makes this scene work, is that there are some descriptors that make it clear that Augustus and Karin are aware of each other's participation in this scene. Otherwise, it would
Mm.
just be sort of, like, slutty and pornographic, and some of the descriptions are quite pornographic in some ways, but I think without the intimacy between the 2 husbands, it wouldn't be as effective of a chapter as it is.
Mm. Love that.
Also, does she go pee before getting tucked in? No, she didn't!
She didn't, but at least she got wiped. But I want everyone to Google, "You need to pee so you don't get a UTI." I can say I have never gotten one, and I'm very proud, and I pee after all the time. Even if I'm tired, I go sit my ass on the toilet and do a little dribble. You need to clear out any bacteria that is still in there.
Maybe Alexis has figured out that she just likes it draining out of her after at a surprise time. Maybe when she's standing at her desk at work and she goes, "Oh, yeah, that was fun."
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't want UTIs.
I'm like a little gremlin
You
over here. Ah!
you're right, she didn't pee, but she at least got wiped, so I'll take that. But yes,
But yeah,
okay.
I'm here for the warm towel. That's that's a nice move.
Oh, right. Chapter 51, The Sins of the Father. It's an Alexis chapter, and it's the next day. So the happy marriage couple spend the morning fucking. We don't get any more information outside of that. She was like, they were good teachers and I was a good learner. So there's literally nothing else that could mean but that. Then her husbands take her to the tub to bathe her. And they finally ask what happened to her ear and her eye. And Alexis finally tells them. And they're pissed for Alexis. Like, they're like, what? And then Augustus grabs her arm and is like, how did you get these scars? And she tells them that she freed herself from her foster dad because she was starving as a child. And at this point, the men don't need to hear anything else. They get dressed quickly, they grab their weapons. Alexis is like, wait, what's going on? Follows them to the dungeon. And remember, in an earlier chapter, the men have her foster father locked up in the dungeon. So then they tell her that he is hers to do what she wants. And the foster dad is like, "Oh, Alex, please tell them that you're such a good kid and all this." And so Alexis admits she did kill the foster mom and she kills the foster dad in non-self-defense, understanding what she could do. Like, it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm doing." Like some of the other ones, like her powers just did it. Like she understands exactly what's happening and she killed this person. So I think at this point, this is her embracing her thonic powers or her thonic side. End of
Yeah.
chapter.
I mean, especially too, right? she has awareness in previous chapters that she was responsible for the death of her foster mother. And
Mhm.
she has awareness of the fact that she blamed it on the foster dad, right? And at the point in time that she did it, it was, instinct being like,
Well,
"Yeah, we
she
gotta."
didn't know that she killed the foster mom. She didn't know what killed the foster mom. She just knew
Right,
she had to blame the dad.
right. And so I think that's where part of it came in for her is, she had to realize like, yes, I murdered this person and I also committed a murder that I blamed on somebody else. Right? There's some dynamics
Mm,
there that she wasn't quite comfortable with yet. So to see her in this chapter be like, yeah, I did this, I have awareness of it. I don't know if she's totally okay with it, but she has such anger towards this individual that she's willing to own it because she knows it's going to hurt him and that
mm,
for her, he deserves to be hurt. I also love that Augustus and Karen are very clear with her like, this is your decision. This is your fight. This is your abuser to kill or do with as you wish. It's your decision
right.
and we're going to respect it. If you choose to leave him in this dungeon forever, so be it. If you choose to let him go live his shitty tortured life, so be it. If you choose to murder him, cool, we're into murder. And that is something that would not have happened, maybe even like 2/3 of the way through in this book with those two men. They would not
Mm,
have been that clear with her of this is your choice. There would have been a debate. There would have been an argument. There would have been a,
yes.
this person hurt you. We're going to take care of them. Let us do this for you. They're finally at a point that they're respecting Alexis's ability to determine how she wants to navigate her powers and how she uses them.
Agree with that. I love it. I'm here for it. Uh, chapter 52, The Lover. This is a Patrol chapter, and it's a day later. Patra opens the door to Alexis and her husband. They ask, like, what's going on? And Patrol is like, oh, him and Achilles are just fucking. And Patrol can see now that Alexis is truly happy. And like he even says that they have found their wedding bliss or something along those lines. And so, but he also knows that this means he needs to find someone else to marry. And so Patrol's growing very slowly. Like, he's redeeming himself just a little bit in some of these chapters. He might, in these now, in this chapter, he might put himself back where he was. But, at least he climbed a little bit out of the hole for a little bit of redemption before he slid back in. But, like, again, he recognizes Alexis is happy and he's just going to accept it. As they close the door, Achilles starts to like touch on him possessively, and him and Patra are like getting turned on. They're like getting hard, all of this. And he's been doing a lot of this since the SGC. They have become so codependent that it's like unhealthy. And we learned that the Olympians kept pouring some liquid in Patrol's like Achilles tendons, and his leg or his like foot has not healed yet. And he's not sure it ever will heal because of whatever they put in. So while they're still trying to get it on, all of a sudden we hear, can you wait to do that? Also, is there a reason you cornered me again? Do you just want me to watch? And I think this is all just some foreshadowing that's going to happen. Patrol being Patrol just says a lot of rude things and something along the lines, he just says a whole bunch of shit. But then he says, you forget I can read people. That's my power. And I know you're still hiding things. And then Petrol thinks when he was younger and was tortured by the Gorgon. So like he literally says that and thinks this. So like he still needs to process. He still needs to process like his anxiety, his distrust of the Gorgons that when he was younger, like not our Gorgons are the same.
Mhm.
And he notices that Medusa grabs her left arm and she just like is like, leave me alone. And then he thinks to himself, I can't. And then now they're just like yelling at each other. Asha reminds her many times that like they're gonna be together 24/7 because they are her new bodyguards and they're gonna, this is how life is gonna be. And so Medusa is not thrilled about that, but she leaves the room and Achilles and Petrels both get hard and they're like dragging each other off at this point and they're like, touching each other. And we do get, like, a little sad part because it says that, like, Achilles, like, nestles or I'm sorry, that Petro, like, nestles his, like, neck up against Achilles and, like, kisses him there because that's the closest he can get to ever actually kissing him because of the muzzle. So it is kind of sad that, like and then that's something, like, I didn't think about necessarily because we've gotten a lot of physical chapters between Petro and Achilles that was, like, never an issue, but it's, like, sad, like, that's what he wants and he can't get it. So I do think someone else is gonna be able to provide that later on in life, right now, because he can't get it from Achilles. But before we end the chapter, I think there are a few lines in this chapter that I'm pulling exactly from the book, and they're all lines that when Petro and Medusa were fighting that I do think is important. So Petro says, "I scoffed. They were so whipped, it was embarrassing. I could never be obsessed with a woman like that." I think that's foreshadowing. Why? What do you
He
think?
already was. Remember when he was like, "We must marry Alexis. The only solution is to marry
Oh, he
Alexis."
doesn't know. His newest session is Medusa.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah.
Like, bro, you are
So,
totally capable of being obsessed with a woman like that. You've already done it.
that is true. Next line. A lesser man would have been cowed by by her display of power. One Gorgon snake was intimidating. Three was hideous. Achilles and I studied them with open curiosity. We've always been intrigued by dangerous things. Someone should really protect her. I shook my head, refusing to acknowledge that ridiculous thought. Because in this book, while they're going back and forth, he's like, "Why are you so weak? Like you're so weak." And so he just thinks someone should protect her. And then he thinks to himself again, someone really needs to teach her self-defense. And then it says, as I caressed Achilles' chest, enjoying as he flexed and pulled me tighter to his side, his bulge unmistakable, a blush stained the top of Medusa's cheek as she still struggled to speak. Achilles flexed his hips, his hardness pressing against me. Medusa bit on her lower lip as she moved, and then like she moved to cover her mouth. So I'm thinking enemies to lovers in this next.
Yeah. Book 3, 100% Patros, Medusa. Achilles is gonna have to be in there somewhere, right? But
Yeah.
that is set up.
No,
But what I also wanna see in it is Achilles and Charlie.
I know that's what you want. That's not what you're getting. This is clearly set up for this way. No. Chapter 53, the last chapter, the dragon. It's an Achilles chapter. And so we get an Achilles point of view about Medusa, like the same interaction. And he admits that he's been over more protective over Petro since everything, since SGC. He tells Petro not to like worry about Medusa, and Petro says she should be the one worried. Turns out Achilles is very curious about this Gorgon. And this book says everyone assumed that I was a dangerous one in their relationship. But when Patro set his sights on someone, when he was truly intrigued, no force on earth could stop him from getting what he wanted. Toxic anticipation filled my chest and I smiled, and he smiled through the muzzle. So I'm going to go back again. I still think enemies to lovers, but I think the difference now is Achilles is into this. He wasn't into the Alexis. He's into like this with Medusa. So I clearly what Petro is saying that she's still a liar is because he doesn't know that she was assaulted, most likely raped. Something happened with her arm. I think once all that comes out in the next book, I think they're gonna slowly start to love each other. I think Medusa also does know sign language or is gonna pick up on sign language really easy so she can communicate with him. Um and I think they're just gonna get from each other things that they don't get from each other. And I also think Medusa's the perfect person because Medusa, I think, I don't know, but I'm gonna assume she's gonna take her time to like wanna even be physical because of everything that just happened with her. So it's a great way to like introduce her into the relationship, still make her care for the relationship. They're gonna be together all the time and not take away and like her slowly learning her place within them type of situation. So yeah.
Yeah. I think part of it too is that Medusa is going to be similar to Alexis in her lack of willingness to discuss, like,
Mhm,
what she has been through and what her time in the underworld was like, partially because she likely doesn't have full awareness of it because of
mhm.
the stasis. Um, but we even saw in previous chapters towards the end of the second book, Alexis getting ready to say, "You don't know what happened to her," and
Yeah.
Medusa shaking her head, signaling to Alexis, "No, don't."
Yeah.
So I fully expect that that will be part of the, I don't know, slow burn of the book, is that we go
Mhm.
through all of these chapters of Medusa being unwilling to be forthcoming just as Alexis was.
Yeah. I also think that Patrick's gonna use his power all the time on her, and he's gonna get the half truths because we learned in this, especially in this book, his power has a lot of loopholes, and so I think he's gonna, like, ask these questions and get, like, half truths from her, and she's not gonna know that he's using her powers, and it's gonna fuck him up even more because he's just getting the half truths from her, not, like, the whole truths. But I do think once both men realize what she's been through, I think they're gonna be so possessive over her and so protective over her.
Hope he does not use his power against her like that. Would like for him to have a conversation with Augustus and Augustus be able to tell him, "Yo, using your power on your girl ain't smart. She doesn't
I
like
don't
it.
think they'll do that because 'cause
It makes her not trust you."
they're kind of not, like, on speaking terms necessarily, so I don't know.
Oh, get over it. Be friends again. Ugh, little babies.
Okay. And so then we get,
Wah.
like, the final. I wouldn't call this a chapter, but it's like a page and a half, but we get the Fates full
Mm.
unseen prophecy because in the end, remember, it was like blank, 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 scribble, scribble, whatever. So now we get the whole unforeseen prophecy. The lost one shall change what is before, chained to death soldiers, becoming evermore. Her healing light shall mend the injured four, Drex, Lucia, Charon, and the serpent of lore. The chain one shall reveal the evil underscore, guarded by crimson med, seen afar. Their love shall change the tides of war. The monstrous one shall mend and restore. The lost one hears his beastly roar. So that's what we get. So that's why I'm saying the prophecy is not done because I think part of this prophecy where it says guarded by the tides of war and change all this, I think part of that is Medusa, Patrol, and Achilles, and it's not done yet all the way. So there hasn't been a mention of a third book. The author, Jasmine Mas, has like she's been teasing that like she's written another book. But I really hope we do get another book in a year. I said normally we get like a year in between books. Hopefully book 3 because I don't think the war is done or any like Zeus is still missing. He's still MIA. I think we still need to find him. I do think the next book is going to be mostly from Medusa's point of view, Petra's and Achilles. I do think because Alexa's going to be in school there, I do think we're going to get some Alexis stuff, especially because now I think in this upcoming year, now I think technically Charlie and Helen have to pair for like SGC stuff or whatever. So like I think we're going to get more information there. Her husbands are just going to like move into her dorm room, so it's not going to be like it's a big thing or anything. So, but yeah.
Are they allowed
But
to move
that's it.
into the dorm? Are there rules about who can be in your
They'll make
dorm?
it. They're Thonic leader. They'll make it work. They're not gonna let that stop that.
Yeah, there's a
All right.
lot to anticipate in the 3rd book. Wait,
Mm.
are you saying we won't get it until next year?
So she hasn't admitted, or the author hasn't said anything about it. But normally, when it comes in between series that like are doing well, and this is one, we normally have to wait like a year, maybe a year and a half. And so she has been teasing that she wrote another book and it's gonna come out. So I'm assuming this one came out, I think, at the end of October. So we're gonna get something. We might also just get like an announcement next October. I don't know if
Mm,
she's actually written it, but I do think the next book is gonna be mostly about Achilles, Petrol, and Medusa. And like the fourth book will be like the full on war,
mhm.
like wherever Zeus is type of situation. Yeah. Because then they'll all have their powers and things like that. All right. Sassy topic. In what ways do bonds in the novel represent both strength and imprisonment? And like, what does that just like mean for us? Like, how do we take these words? And I'll give you some clues. There's like marriage bonds, friendship
Yeah.
bonds,
I mean,
animal bonds,
that's the first bond
which are
that
not all good. Yeah, because
yeah.
Vico bonded, and that was a bad bond.
That's the first bond that comes to mind with these 2 books is the marriage bond of Alexis and Augustus and Karen.
Mhm.
And I think it depends on like the individual and how they choose to understand the power, or can they understand the power? Have they figured out how to wield it? And we see that in this thruple, where when they're first married and that marriage bond is activating, there's a lot of each of them as individuals not understanding what's going on there. And then they eventually figure out, oh, here's how my power morphed, or here's how I use it, and here's how I do those things. I do think that we see the bond make Karin quite obsessive. You know, Augustus
Oh.
doesn't really express it in the same way that Karin does. With Karin, it's much more like desperation.
Uh-huh.
Um, and with Augustus, it seems to come with a little more understanding of like the bond allows for completion a little bit. And I don't know if that's just because he's older or has more experience in Thonic life or what that is.
Uh-huh.
Where I see the bonds really being dangerous and obsessive is anything having to do with Patros. Like, that guy has 0 chill factor. You know, his bond with Achilles takes over his life. His attempt to save his bond with Achilles by becoming obsessed with Alexis takes over to the point that Achilles is like, "Yo, I'm worried about you."
Mhm.
So, I expect more of that obsessiveness towards Medusa. I expect it to be quite unhealthy and for Medusa to push back on it and not want it because of what she had been through in the
Mhm.
underworld. I do think we see examples where it seems to be healthier than not when you think of like Hades and Persephone. You know, they seem
Mm.
to have, in some way, shape, or form, figured it out. And I get that they're, you know, the elders. I get that they're running the house. So this book isn't really about them. But even the examples that we see of them, they seem to have figured out a kind of reciprocation with each other, right? And there isn't alarm when the other one uses their powers, and that bond seems to be, of all of the examples in the book, the most stable.
Mm. I like that. I agree with most of it. So again, yeah, marriage bond I think is the most obvious one because this whole book was essentially her loving her husband. But I do think that changed because in the beginning of this book, that marriage bond was prison for Alexis. She did not want this bond. She was tricked into it. She felt like she had to, so that wasn't great. I think the friendship bonds that she has with like Helen, even with Drax, is like also showing that because her husbands like are jealous of this relationship that she has, but they're like, no, they can't do anything to him. So I think it also forces them to like rethink that like not every guy, we don't have to kill every guy. Not every guy is this. I think family bonds, some were great, but we know the bond between like Karan told Patrol, I can't trust you right now. Like I'll get over it because Alexis will want me, but like right now I can't. So bonds being destroyed. They were all felt like brothers at one point and now they don't. The animal bond, so like we all think they're good, but here we find out Nyx has been bonded illegally. She never wanted to bond with him. She can't even speak about Vico. I assume Vico's alive still, so like if Vico dies, does this mean her bond's over? Because at this point, go send Karen and Augustus after him because I'm assuming Nyx can't kill her bonded
Mhm.
person. Like she can't do that. But I'm positive Karen and Augustus, no qualms asked,
Yeah.
will do it.
And one of my
Fluffy Jr., I feel like at this point would do it. Poco will fucking do it, I feel like.
I will say, I think my favorite animal bond in the book is Augustus and Poco, not only because Poco is cute, and I love the description of Poco, like, chittering, right? I can
Mhm.
visualize it
Oh,
so well, but, you know, the chapter where Alexis is in the hospital and is basically, like, in a coma, Augustus, you know, when we get the chapter from his perspective, he talks about bonding with Poco, and he talks about how his bond to Poco was dramatically different than any other bond he had had at any point in his life, and that it taught him some sort of like intimacy and delicacy, and that there could be, you know, creatures or humans or whatever who do have care and comfort and kindness. And from the animal bonds, that one's my favorite because of the way Augustus talks about it and what a new thing it was for him and what it means to him.
bit. And then my last one, I don't know if we could say, but their bonds to their house, like feeling that they're bonded so much to their house. I do think is a good thing, but slash it does make them feel like they're in prison because Augustus feels as the eldest heir and as the heir of the House of Aries, he has to be this way. He has to have this persona. Charon doesn't get along with his mother. Whether he was, we don't know. Like I said, we never got a chapter from any of the leaders' point of view. But like whether his mom is a jerk or not, like he's clear he doesn't like his mom, but he feels like he has to be part of this house and has to like show, have like this fake like I'm so proud to be part of this house. And then we have Hercules slash Alexis who like didn't know how to come into being the heiress of Hades, and then at the end we see her grow into that and like accepting it, and like it's a good bond. So I love the term bond here, and I think they did a great job. So good job, Jasmine Moss.
Yeah,
Woo!
it was good. Once the second book really got going, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm sold. I want the third book. I'm invested in these characters. I'm invested in this storyline. The whole first book, I was sort of like, and then we got maybe a third of way through the second book, and I was like, okay, now all the pieces are coming together. Now I understand why there was so much set up
Mm-hmm.
here. And yeah, I'm like,
Yep.
third book right now, because I can't be waiting a year for another book and more heated rivalry. That's too long.
You will need to wait, I think, for both.
I'm out of here. I'm
So,
going to Europe. Bye.
well, thank you, Danielle, for being a guest. I appreciate it. I had a great time these last like almost like month and a half
I
going
know.
through.
I'm gonna
I
miss our
know. Don't worry.
Kikis.
I will find another book that has way more smut in it. I'm gonna read it in advance and I'll have you as a guest. Don't you worry, you'll come back.
Yeah, more filth.
But thank you for being a guest. Next week we will start a new chapter, and I don't know if you guys can see my shirt, but this is a clue. We will be covering just the first 4 books of Bridgerton. We'll deep dive into like the diversity between the actual book and the show and all of this, but I will bring Danielle back. So thank you again. I guess until next time, Danielle. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.